All right. All right. Well, this is yet another entry. Unless you want to do the intro, I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna just pick this one from the Washington Post. Especially because this one's gonna be like, oh, with a long racist history. So let's talk about this, I guess.
Okay, I will in a second. I need to head over to my channel real quick.
Alright.
Okay, I guess I can't do that. Not easily, anyway. No, stop. I didn't click on anything. Fucking hell, Google. Oh, okay, everything's not responding anymore. Okay, everything just froze. Everything just froze. That's cool.
What the fuck?
My browser just froze. Oh, okay, now it's fine. Okay. I think I need to refix. Not refix, but fix. Okay, there. Okay. We're here.
We are indeed here.
Wait, I need to make sure I'm even streaming. If I actually... Okay, there we are. Okay, so, you brought this to my attention, so why don't you introduce this?
Alright, so... Basically, to go over the situation, recently, in the news... This has been in the news where, two individuals were waiting in a Starbucks for a friend of theirs or someone they knew to meet them, and they did not buy anything, and apparently they also requested to use the restroom at some point. At least for that, they were told it was, for paying customers only. As far as I've seen, because apparently the manager, the person who called the police, said this themselves, as far as just being in the Starbucks, they were not told to leave before the police were called, which is kind of, that part of it's kind of what the fuck. However, there has also been a large push, including by the two individuals themselves, to make this about race, as they were of African descent, African Americans, as it says right there. And it's funny, apparently, I think this wasn't, well, basically they took a settlement because they were initially suing, I think it wasn't the Starbucks, it was like the state, for money, but they took a quote-unquote symbolic $1 each without actually taking out much of money, just to make a statement, apparently.
They took $1 each from what?
From the state, because of the state officers.
Oh. Okay.
So let's talk about the whole racial thing. So, in your opinion, would you say that this was this race-based? Was this racist? Do you think? Can we conclude?
There's
that?
literally no way. It could have been, but there's no way to conclude that. I think that's a huge stretch. I mean, I just there's like I was saying earlier, it just kind of seems like anytime anytime that it becomes a big deal anyway, because I'm sure that this doesn't happen every single time this sort of thing happens, but it seems like bigger stories that blow up, when it involves a white person calling the cops on a black person. Now, I'm not going to say that that's never done out of racism. In fact, a lot of times it seems that the reason the story gets big is because it's due to racism. But it's anytime a white person says anything to a black person or calls the cops on them, whether or not and they weren't doing anything wrong here. But wasn't it also specifically a policy as well? Not saying it was a good policy, not saying that it was right to call the cops without them knowing, because it's not. But I still think it's a huge stretch to call that racism, because I was working my way to saying, it seems call cops on a black guy if you're white, then it's because you're black. and it's like racism. And it's like, this really doesn't have anything to do with race. At least if it does, there's no way.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, though, seeing as how it says he was convicted for, like, loitering and shit, it wouldn't surprise me if some of that was done out of racism, though, considering how many fucking times it says.
Oh, they weren't.
Huh?
They weren't convicted. This up here is. I was gonna get into that a little bit later.
Okay. Okay, that's literally an example of it. Like, especially, it was a lot easier to tell when something was due to racist intent back in the 50s when people had a lot easier time just straight up saying it.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, like, they try to compare this case, this contemporary case, to an issue or an event that occurred back in '59, of someone actually buying something and then being arrested for loitering.
Yeah, like, that's not a
Not
comparison. Like,
thing.
I find it hard to believe that this guy is the only guy that Starbucks has ever done this to.
And I mean, of course, like, yeah, the manager themselves said that there was a large problem with loitering lately. I mean, I can't just go on her say so, but again, I can't just go on people. I can't go on the other people say so, saying it's racist either. So I mean, I don't know.
This post seems very biased, because the Washington Post is literally saying in this paragraph that, like, the arrest of 2 African-American men at a Philadelphia Starbucks last week is a stark reminder that discriminatory policing continues to be what the fuck is wrong with me? Continues to be very much with us. It is, but I don't think this is a very good example of it. Like, if that's the kind of point you're trying to make, find an example of, find a better example where it's pretty damn obvious it has to do with a black guy, like some police brutality case.
Yeah, like, I don't know, they're trying to use this as a jumping off point to argue that loitering laws are racist, or that they have a racist history.
I mean, they probably do. But
yeah, like,
that doesn't mean but that doesn't mean that, like, especially not now, because I've gone to convenience stores and shit where, like, you just want to use the restroom and you can't. You have to buy something, and it's like, am I supposed to say that now it's like a white race issue thing? Because it's not. This doesn't have to do with race. I mean, it may, depending on the individual, but the law itself doesn't. I mean, it's a stupid law, don't get me wrong. I don't know, it's like... It's like, why can't we just, like, actually solve the problem that actually exists within this particular situation, instead of create more that may or may not be there?
Yeah, the outrage over this got so bad that, like, well, leading up to that whole policy change that we were talking about earlier, the head of Starbucks felt the need to, like, apologize and meet up with these guys, apparently.
Yeah, okay, that's something, like, and I'm, again, not trying to downplay the prevalence of racism in the country, but it's like, if you're a white person, you've got to be so goddamn careful about everything, because even white people aren't on your side. Like, fucking hell. It's like, there's this whole thing where it's like, if a white person tried to say that this was a racial issue, which, okay, I can kind of see why that would be a little ridiculous, considering white people are the majority in the country, but it's like, you have... It's just like, white people are just kind of racist no matter what they do. Like, I remember when I was at a diversity, like, seminar that I was forced to go to at the college I go to, and they would say stuff like, oh, this is supposed to make you uncomfortable, and I'm like, I hardly feel that someone who is not white that is attending this feels uncomfortable to any degree.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because the university I attend, white people are a minority at that university. Actually, international students from China are the majority. Like, Asian international students, mostly being from China, make up like 42% of the fucking thing. Hold on a second, I need to okay. But yeah, it's like, and they actually at this seminar said that white people were the majority at the college.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, but they're literally not. I mean, if there were, even if there were, that doesn't matter. Like,
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you know, they're like, oh, you should feel uncomfortable talking about this, and it's like, oh, I feel uncomfortable, but probably not the reason you want me. Actually, no, it probably is the reason you want me to feel uncomfortable. You just don't want to say it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, you know, and here's a good example of a bias when it comes to talking about racial issues. So, the university I go to, our old mascot was called the Chief, and he was a Native American. He wasn't like an extremely offensive portrayal of a Native American, but I mean, it's whatever. It's not something that I feel really strongly about, so I don't really mind.
Mm.
But someone actually asked during the seminar, well, what about the other teams that have like leprechauns or Vikings as their mascot? Why is that okay, but having a Native American isn't? And those are actually two really good examples. I'll get into that in a second, though. Their answer was, though, that Vikings and leprechauns aren't real.
I always love that story, as you know, because I mean, I know there's a valid explanation for the leprechaun thing, but even if you can see that they're not literally real, what's up with them saying that Vikings aren't real? Like, what the fuck is that?
And it's like, so if it's not real, then it's not racist. Well, what about all those fucking old Hanna-Barbera or cartoons or whatever, or the Disney cartoons where they'd have like the super racist black people, like huge lip thing?
Mm-hmm.
That's not what black people look like, but it's still racist.
Yeah.
And it's like, the Viking thing is a direct comparison, and I would actually probably put forth that the Viking is probably a more exaggerated portrayal of what a Viking actually was at the time. You there?
Hello?
God damn it, Rabbit, what the hell?
What were you saying?
I said, why'd you call him N-word, Jim? They just call him Jim in the book.
I mean, they might be like that now, but I'm pretty sure in the original version that was his name, or at least his nickname, at some point.
I mean, maybe it's either way. Yeah, it wouldn't make sense to cast him as a white person. It also wouldn't make sense to cast fucking Huckleberry Finn as a black person.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny that it's like Huckleberry Finn is like becoming like perceived as a racist book because it has the N-word in it, even though the book itself, like, the racism in the book is just a portrayal of the racism of the time the book was written. Mm-hmm. Or actually, I mean, especially when the book takes place, because I think the book takes place, like, before, I mean, it takes place before the Civil War. I don't know when it was written, though. I think it was written in, like, the 1880s or something. And it's like, yeah, of course there's gonna be fucking racism, because there was a ton of racism in the U.S.
Yeah, and what's weird about that, getting offended over that? I mean, I thought the whole problem, at least like SJW types will say, I thought the whole major problem with white people supposedly is that we pretend that racism doesn't exist, and then we have a piece of literature that analyzes the racism of its time. Oh, let's get rid of that. That's bad. Don't want to talk about that. I don't
And
know.
that's one thing that I think is really annoying is it's like because of that, just the use of the N-word is given so much more importance when you talk about that book in school than the actual background behind the racism.
Mhm.
Like, when we read that junior year, before we started reading the book, we just talked about the N-word, like, the day before we read the book, and not really anything about the racism surrounding it. Because it's like, god damn. You know, it's funny, it's just like, all other racial slurs except for the N-word, or any racial slur pertaining to, like, a black person, is like off limits, but all the other ones, like, you hear them all the time. And it's like, no, like, either one of them is, like, either all of them are okay or none of them are okay. Like, some of the racial slurs, some of the history behind other racial slurs against other races are just as bad. Yet they're not as condemnable as the N-word. It's like, you can't do that. But yeah, have you found the article?
Oh yeah, sorry. I have it right here. Let me
Yeah.
take the link and I'll put it up here. Let me grab the remote.
Also, I don't think we're
Like-
planning on this entire episode being about this topic. It's just we
Yeah.
both have had a lot to say about this lately.
Mhm.
Okay. So
Basically,
yeah, talk about this article for us.
all right. Well, as the headline sums up, it talks about how 39% of prisoners should not be in prison, as far as like not as far as innocence, but as like efficacy in our crime, our criminal
Yeah.
justice system. Let me go down to right here. It says that approximately 39% of the nationwide prison population, which is about 576,000, is behind bars with little public safety rationale, and they could be released significantly and safely. Emphasis cutting our prison population.
I will say one thing. I'm just gonna make this little quick comment because I don't want to take the light from you or anything, because this is something that you've read and brought to my attention just now. But that's something that always like just scares me. The thought of like going to prison for like weed possession and then being put in the same place with like people that have committed like murders and shit, and people that are dangerous, because like people that are dangerous in prison are not always kept separate from the other people that aren't as dangerous.
Yeah.
And just, I don't think, like, going to prison for some of the crimes, when you look at what actually happens in prison, is a much worse, like, punishment than the crime itself. Like, you get in trouble for possessing weed and you go to prison for, like, fucking a decade. It's like, there's a lot of time for some bad shit to happen that isn't part of your sentence. It's about the fact that people that have fucking been serial killers and aren't in like confinement, which I'm not saying confinement should be used as a punishment, because it shouldn't. But it's like, that's just, you know, people don't deserve that sort of thing. They don't deserve to be put in a dangerous environment with people that have no regard for human life. Okay, so continue with what you had to say about this.
All right. So yeah, basically, okay, that's not what I wanted to do. Thanks, scroll bar.
It's orange.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so we can see here, we break down that number. 25%. The majority of that is nonviolent offenders that we should have just never sent there in the first place.
Does it have
14%.
like examples of what kind of crimes they're referring to, or do you know?
I don't think it does. I mean,
I'm assuming
like,
weed
obviously,
possession would be in there, because that's a big one.
yeah, so like it doesn't specify each crime, but it just says that anything non-violent, so no violence involved, and lower level, so just not non-violent and non-felonies.
Mhm.
and 14% did commit more serious crimes, but could be safely set free because they've already served the large majority of their sentences. Admittedly, on that smaller number, I'm not exactly sure what they specifically mean by why they cannot be safely set free, even if they have served a large term. Um, of course, even though it's more serious crimes, obviously, I don't know how has anyone ever does anyone ever get released for a murder charge, even if aside from any technicalities? Because I'm pretty sure that doesn't happen.
Well, I mean, it depends on what kind of murder. If it's like first-degree murder, I think that's just automatically a life sentence. And then depending on depending on like the more specific, more specifics in the crime, I think that determines whether or not it's like parole is possible or not. I don't know if I'm correct, but I think that's what it is. Is first-degree murder always like a life sentence?
I'm pretty sure. I mean, I can go ahead and look into that in a minute here to check, but
or at
I
least
believe it's
or at least like 90% of the time it is, if not more.
yeah. Let's see.
Oh wait, I want to read the things about the factors up there.
Okay.
I think that's important. Okay, so the first factor, and this is referring to factors that weigh in on the kind of sentence the person gets. The first factor is seriousness. Murder, for instance, should be treated as a far graver crime than writing a bad check. That's a crime?
Yeah, it is, unfortunately.
I didn't even know that. The second is victim impact. If a person has been harmed in the commission of a crime, especially physically, the punishment should weigh towards a more serious sentence. The third factor is intent. If a person knowingly and deliberately violated a law, the more severe sanction may be appropriate. The fourth factor is recidivism. The more likely to reoffend, they may need more intervention. Blah, blah, blah. If they're more likely to reoffend, they need more intervention. Okay.
Mm. All right, and I'm not sure exactly how they would go into that, but I think that's how they would that factor, however they determine it, is how they would decide. Okay, a more serious offender has served long enough and could be reintroduced without a high risk of recidivism. Like I said,
so I'm guessing that's kind of like what I was describing earlier with like the murder.
Yeah. And then that's the thing, is how you were talking about earlier about the racial makeup of prison. I mean, yeah, we don't want a disproportionate amount of black people in prison, but we really need. I'd have to call those kind of people out for not emphasizing that we should want less people in prison. Like they're not saying that we should have less black people in prison. They're basically implying that as long as we have more white people in prison to make it more match the statistics, then that's, I guess, okay. Which is, I mean, because they're not.
I also find it funny is it's like, it's always like there have to be more white people in prison to make up for the black people in prison. Not there needs to be more of every other race. It's just white people. White people are expected to bear the burden of things that may or may not be, and in this case is like, I mean, there's unarguably more black people in prison for committing like the same crime versus like in terms of percentage of like people committing crimes and people going to prison for or jail for those crimes. Okay, what's the next part of the article you want to look at?
Yeah. It's being more conservative, not conservative politically.
You're breaking up a little bit.
I was pointing out that then they just go on to explain their sentences and let um,
could
needing prison
you
for
use your audio on Rabbit? I'll stay on
many.
Skype, but
Uh, sure, yeah. Uh, uh,
okay. Are you speaking? Because I can't tell. I apologize, people. We have some really awful connections when we're trying to use Rabbit. I don't understand why, because we both don't have internet that's that bad. Can you at least hear me? Like, type in the message in Rabbit, see if you can... Well, while that's going on, I'm gonna go grab some more water. I'll be right back. Alright, I am back. Okay, I am now back, and... Is it not working or something? Or... Did I not... You know, with the way Rabbit changed their interface, I can't, like, go and see if I muted you or anything. Unless you're not...
Can you hear me now, though?
Yeah.
Alright,
Is this through Skype?
yeah, am I breaking up still, or does it sound fine?
It sounds fine now. I just wanted to see if it would fix it. Let's just go with Skype. If it becomes so bad, then maybe we could try to figure it out, but... Okay, so
yeah, I don't know.
Go with where you were going before this happened.
Okay, let's see. Alright, I was just talking about how, after all of that, it just goes into how, we should reduce prison sentences in general, and how we shouldn't sentence low-level offenders and non-violent offenders to prison because it's not necessary, as there are other methods of rehabilitation, and that's basically what we've been kind of saying all along.
But yeah, it's like, that's what needs to be done about the prison system, not just putting more white people in prison.
Yeah.
Like, if a white person ethically deserves to be in prison. Yeah, sure, but it's like, oh, we need to make up for all the black people in prison. Let's go take those white people that all wrote bad checks and put them in prison now. I'm not saying that all the black people in prison should be in prison. That's the opposite of what I'm saying. But I'm saying the way you're going to fix it is not by just putting more white people in prison. That's going to create more problems.
Yep. All right.
Is there anything else you wanted to add to any of this? Just your thoughts?
No, I think, oh, well, kind of, I think there are also some, like, offenses that are now, like, higher level felonies that just also don't deserve, prison time, in my opinion, because there are, other ways to monitor people in the population.
Like what?
Like, I personally know somebody who was sent to prison for, what was it? It was some kind of bank fraud, basically. Of course, I know I'm biased, but in my opinion, I don't really think they actually were even guilty. It was an issue. It's complicated, but anyway, even if they were, that led to them being put in the same place, like you said, as freaking murderers, gang members, all that kind of crap. And
you're not allowed to say gang members, dude.
Oh, right.
Dude.
That's racist.
Dude, now my channel's gonna get flagged and it's gonna get partnered again just so they can unpartner me. Again. Oh yeah, I used to be a YouTube partner. I don't know if I ever mentioned that on my... I probably have mentioned that around the time it happened, especially. Still not over that.
Yeah, well, you gotta have 10,000 subscribers.
It's like... Since I started streaming, I started kind of accumulating subscribers a little bit more quickly, but... Then it went way back down to almost nothing when I got unpartnered with YouTube. And it's like, are you fucking kidding me? I started getting somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, if I make it back up to 10,000, or make it up to 10,000, then I'll be eligible again, but I don't think that's gonna happen. Because I've also noticed that since I had been unpartnered, even if my internet connection is completely fine, I still have a harder time streaming. And I don't know if that's on purpose, but considering it just so seemed to happen after I became a former YouTube partner, it seems like it's a pretty strange coincidence. I'm not going to say that it's absolutely YouTube's fault, but I don't know how the hell else it could have been caused.
Yeah.
So is there anywhere you wanted to go on that?
No, I think I've said all I had to say, I think.
So, speaking of YouTube, so have you started on DTube? Have you made a channel yet? Or you have, but have you like done anything on it?
No, I haven't done anything yet. Same with YouTube. Been thinking about things, but I haven't actually done anything yet. I probably should get on it, but not yet.
What kind of stuff were you planning on doing on DTube?
Well, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do some games first, or if I wanted to like talk about stuff like this maybe, or I don't know. I didn't know if I just wanted to talk about issues, or if I wanted to just do some gaming or something. Wasn't sure.
Yeah, so far my DTube channel is just music. I was thinking I'm assuming you can't make multiple DTube accounts under the same email.
Yeah, I think you need different email.
I mean, I have a couple different emails I can use. But, I mean, just, I've learned over time, and I've also heard more successful YouTubers say that when your content is a lot more consistent, that's why so many people on YouTube will have different channels for every different genre of like content they produce, or every different type of content they produce, because and it makes sense. It's like if you go to someone's channel for like gaming, and you see they uploaded something, and then it's like a fucking, they're playing something on a guitar, and you're like, well, fuck, I don't want to watch that. But then it's like, if you have a whole other channel, then people can go to that channel if they want to listen to that stuff instead of watch, like, game videos.
Yeah, and I can relate to that because there's always been like big YouTubers that'll be putting out stuff, like they have their certain like niche that they're usually doing, but then if they put something else, I'm always like, well, I don't really want to watch that other thing.
Which is weird though, because I also even though it seems to be a thing that a lot of successful YouTubers do, I still see a lot of YouTubers that don't do that. They post a lot of different types of content on their channel, yet are still somehow popular. Yeah. Though it's probably that they became popular early on, and because of that, they had an easier time not having to deal with that issue.
Mm-hmm. You also got to make sure that you upload those 10-minute videos, 10 minutes exactly, or else it's gonna die.
Wait, it has to be exact? Like, it can't be over?
It probably can't be over. It's just that it seems like a lot of people will always go to 10 minutes, and then it's like, okay, that's the end.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like, for a period of time, it was like people were just kind of making videos however long they wanted, but longer than 10 minutes. And then all of a sudden, everyone's back down to 10 minutes, which is like, and I mean, a lot of times, these people also make videos more often. But there are some people that it's like, they'll make a 10-minute video every 2 weeks, and it's like, dude, come on. Because, ever since... Because, I mean, the thing that limited me when I first started YouTube fucking 9 years ago... Yeah, I've been on YouTube for 9 years, and I'm still not even at 100 subscribers. I swear to God, I've actually gotten up to 100. But there are a couple people, and I know because I get notifications, there are a couple people that will subscribe to me, unsubscribe to me, and then like a month later subscribe to me again, and they'll just keep doing this.
The fuck?
Yeah, and it pisses me off. I think these people are trying to get me to like notice them, but I'm not gonna do it.
But bro, you have to notice them.
I'm not going to fucking do it. If you're not gonna subscribe and say subscribe, then why the hell should I? Like, you're not even a loyal subscriber.
Nah, bro, you gotta notice them.
I mean, there are a couple different, like, types of content that I've been planning on producing. It's been a while since I started this, and because of college, I couldn't really, I couldn't get on it very often and work a lot on it since I first started. And I didn't want to say anything about it at the time because I didn't know how long it was going to take and whatnot. But I doubt a ton of people are going to see this video anyway, though you never know. Mm-hmm. But I am actually in progress, sort of on a hiatus from this particular project. But I started a movie review, and the thing that started it is like, I see a lot of people like complaining about people like the Nostalgia Critic and the way they review movies, and also things that I don't like when I see movie reviews, like especially the Nostalgia Critic. Like, the longer he's done it, the more like skits that he does. Like, he opens up every video with a damn skit, and it's just like, I don't want to watch that. And the worst part is there are certain movie reviews that it's like, I want to watch him review it because I want to see how his character reacts to stuff in that movie. But then he has like skits every 10 minutes, and it's like, I don't care. Like, it's one thing to have a cutaway gag, but it's another thing to have like a 5-minute skit in the middle of your fucking video. Every video. Yeah. And another thing I saw is like people are talking about like movie reviewers are more starting, a lot of the more popular ones are starting to do this thing where they'll just kind of outline the plot and then maybe make some quips about the plot, but not really talk about whether or not the movie's good or bad beyond saying it's good or bad. Like, for example, AVGN, like, he says the game's bad, then he goes into all the reasons why it's bad, while he's also going into what the game's like as you play through it. That's what people are wanting. And that's what he does. Like, he didn't just kind of play through the game and then go, I'm gonna take a shit on this game. And I'm like, I do agree with that. It's like I like to hear specifically why something's bad or good, not just it's bad. Fucking fuck, I can't think of a fucking actor's name. Brian Regan's not funny. This is a bad comedy special. And it's like, okay, but why isn't it funny? What did he say that wasn't funny? This isn't anything specific. It's just Brian Regan was the first one to come to my head. I do think Brian Regan's funny, though. This is no actual opinion on him. Like, I actually think that he's hilarious. At least from what I've seen. I haven't seen a ton of his stuff, but he's funny.
Foony.
It's like he does what I like to call professional dad humor. Have you ever seen Brian Regan stuff?
Honestly, I haven't.
Like, sometime we gotta watch like some of his specials, because he's basically like professional dad humor. Like, I remember one of his specials, it opens up with him talking about like when he was skinny and he'd bend over with his like underwear on. He wouldn't like hear anything. Then he got older and he got a little fatter, and then he'd hear the waistband snap. And then when he'd bend, like stand back up straight, it would snap back up. And he's like, and now when I bend over, it just snaps down and doesn't come back up. It's like dad jokes. Like he delivered it much better, but it's like, it's like dad humor, but on a professional level, and it's like consistently funny. And also just the way he, like, if you watch Game Grumps, they talk about Brian Regan ever so often, and like their imitation of his voice, like, oh, whoa, whoa, I can't think of a fucking line. When you burned over like this. Fuck, dude, I don't even know. I can't do it. I haven't heard him talk in so long. The closest thing I've heard to him talking recently was like Aaron Hansen doing a fucking impression of him, and that's not really a good way to base my impression off of. A good thing to base my impression off of, anyway. So, yeah, you talk about some YouTube stuff, because, I don't actually hear you talk about YouTube a whole lot.
I guess I don't really know what to say about it. Other than, I don't know. What did I want to say about YouTube?
I mean, you could talk about like any game ideas you thought of, like maybe playing for DTube or something, or like just things you wanted to do in the future. Because I mean, I don't think you've really talked about that a whole lot.
Yeah, I haven't. As far as games, that's the one thing, is I can never really think of a game that I should play, or that I think people would want to see, I guess.
I mean, you got that fancy, shiny HD PVR 60.
True. Of course, I still haven't gotten that something to like be able to convert from a component to HDMI in some
yeah, I forgot about that. I mean, you do have consoles that do use HDMI that might have a game you'd want to play, though, right?
Yeah, that's
so, I mean,
true.
if you ever get it in you to play one of those games, I mean, you could do that like whenever you have time.
True story.
And I mean, it's not like you're exactly new to Let's Plays, but something that I had to learn the hard way is that if it's something you're not used to producing, you want to start with a shorter game that you can finish and get all the videos made before you get bored of it.
Oh yeah.
Luigi's Mansion.
Come on, man, that game's not even that long.
Yeah, but at the time, dude, using an HD PVR 2 when before that, the only thing I had done was put a camera in front of a fucking computer screen.
I miss those videos that.
Well, I didn't delete those. I still have. Well, I mean, I deleted the ones that like I never finished, like the game.
Well, yeah, I particularly mean like the Pac-Mania one. For
Oh my
instance.
god, where you can see me in the reflection of the video. And it's like the screen, the computer screen takes up maybe a fifth of the actual like field of view of the camera.
Or like the original SpongeBob playthrough that you did, of the Odyssey, I think it was, right?
Back before my voice changed.
Yeah.
Speaking of my voice changing, that first video I did of Chicken Invaders 2, where I started using Bandicam, although it was unregistered, but whatever. Fucking guy posts a comment like, "What happened to your old voice? I hate your new voice." And it's like, and I went to his channel, and the guy obviously hasn't hit puberty, so is it like he just doesn't know that your voice changes? Man, he must have been in for a really rude awakening when his voice changed, if it did. I mean, I don't know why it wouldn't, because that was fucking 5 years ago.
At this point, I can't even remember if my internal voice ever sounded different than what it sounds now. I can't remember if it ever did.
Yeah, that's something I don't understand. Like, my internal voice, even in my memories, I'll go back, and even my memories of other people my age speaking, their voice sounds like what it sounds like now. So it's like, I'll have a memory from when I'm 5 years old, and like it'll be like me and Philip, and our voices will sound like they do now.
Oh god. Now I just imagine if I was in one of your memories, I imagine myself with my voice now as like a 6-year-old in first grade. Ooh. I don't know.
You know, there's this game called Alpha Ball. And it's kind of like Magic Ball. And I played it like maybe when I was 7, and there was this one part of the music that would go like wow 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 wow, and it sounded like a voice. And it seriously, in my head, every time I heard that music, I imagined you like doing that with your voice. Because it sounded like something you could have done at the time. And not only would I imagine just you doing it, I would like have a visual of you doing it as well. It was so stupid. And I remember a couple years ago, I actually downloaded the game again because I wanted to see if it sounded like I remembered it, and it fucking did. It sounds like someone going wow 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 wow. And it's weird because like all the other instruments just sound like, it just sounds like a fucking, it sounds like Magic Ball music except for that. Oh dear lord. And it's funny because like you go back to my Chicken Invaders video, the original ones, and because my voice started to get deeper by that time, but it sounds like you took my voice now and then like increased the pitch a little bit. Like, oh my god, when people that didn't know me back then that know me now, and I've shown them like these videos, are like, dude, what the fuck, you sound so weird in that. And it's just weird because my voice isn't even that deep. It kind of stopped getting deeper after I turned like 14. I'm almost fucking 19, by the way.
I know, what the fuck. And heck, I mean, I know you brought this up earlier, but you saying that now also, those two things combined, earlier when you were talking about like your memories of that you of in the past and like the voices, and you talking about that now, maybe like think about when I recently stumbled across some old recordings of myself, and some had your voice in them, and I just listened. I'm like, what? Whose fucking voices are these? I mean, I knew, but just those are not voices I remember at all.
But yeah, it's just weird because it's like, yeah, both of our voices haven't changed since we were 14, but you sounded like this when you were 14, and I sounded like fucking this. Like, I don't sound like a 19-year-old. because like I listen to some of my more recent like videos that have my voice in it, and I'm like, dude, what the fuck? My voice still sounds like it did when I was like 14 and 15 years old. And I'm coming up on the age where I'm legally allowed to drink. Getting close. Like, I can go into a strip club legally on my own.
I was forgetting about that. Like, oh, I guess I could do that if I wanted to.
I mean, just think about that. Like, we could just walk into a fucking strip. We should, you know, in Hellbenders and the Appaloosa, when they're walking down the sidewalk and like you're smashing your face on the ground, and I have my hands up and I'm walking like a crab. We should just walk into a fucking strip club like that.
I like how on this stream you just referred to the characters as ourselves.
Well, because although, you know, Zach and Chris don't look like us, the way they draw them, or at least the way I guess Zach is the animator, the way he draws them looks like us. It's so fucking weird. Like, our hair color, our fucking height, our hair style, it just looks like what we look like. Except for the parts where Chris becomes randomly morbidly obese.
Yeah, why is it like off and on? Like, he's not always fat in the animation, but that sometimes he is.
I think it partially has to do with the fact that Chris draws himself as this fat, short guy. Like, I've shown you the way he draws himself.
Yeah.
And first of all, they don't draw... Like, Chris doesn't draw himself at all like the way Zach draws him. But the one thing in common is that Zach draws him just really fat sometimes for no reason. Yeah, I think I would assume that Zach animates those because Chris doesn't animate, he just draws as far as I know. But yeah, speaking of drawing, after literally not drawing, not counting like doodles, those don't count. After not drawing for literally a few years, I tried drawing and realized I can't draw for shit anymore.
Oh, wow.
Like, I lost my ability to draw. Like, you remember that picture of George Gershwin I drew when I was like a freshman in high school?
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, can't do that anymore.
How do you just lose your ability to draw?
Because
like,
it's
I
not...
don't know.
I mean, I drew a lot, but it's not like... I wasn't like Chris or like Aaron Hansen where I was drawing every single day. I was doing it just enough to make it so that I could draw well. And then I just kind of like stopped drawing. I mean, I have a couple drawings sprinkled from like... There's like a drawing from like junior year, senior year that I had to do as projects that don't look too bad. Like, I'm gonna steal the remote here. I'm actually gonna go to DeviantArt. Bojan Kirkrick. I had anxiety attacks, but no one wants to talk about that. Bojan Kirkrick. What?
Wait, it says I still have the remote. Oh, wait, now it says I lost it. What the fuck?
Well, because I took it.
Oh.
It's my room.
Oh,
I can take the remote whenever I want.
I know, but you said that, and I was looking, and it still said I had it for a while, so I was like, are you gonna take it? And then you...
Because I... What the f...
Deviant.
I didn't do that! Rabbit, what the hell?
I like how you... I like how you just happened to spell it exactly the way someone spelled it in a description of a certain image on DeviantArt.
The exact same amount of T. What the fuck happened to DeviantArt?
Yeah, this is DeviantArt now. I will say that what's up with their logo? It's been like that for a while, but I never understood why they changed it to this weird like Z thing.
What the hell is it?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I mean, it looks better than the other one, but what is it?
I don't know. I like the other one, but like, I mean, at least it represented the name. But what is that? It looks like a Z. With like a line. I wish I.
Can I just do that?
Everything is Chrome in the future.
Oh, hey, look, it's back when I drew Midna all the time.
Shut up,
Hey,
user testing. I'm busy. I don't want to take a test right
I
now.
never finished this drawing.
But you should have finished it.
The
But I guess you can't
shadowing,
now,
the
'cause you can't
shadowing,
draw.
like, the shadowing actually looks really good when the image is small. Fucking hell. I did that in Photoshop.
Look, it's the moon.
Hey, I drew the worm head from Silent Hill. Oh yeah, I used to be a photographer. God damn, dude, this was the first thing I uploaded to DeviantArt.
Look at Kirby over there. He's really small.
Well, he's really small compared to Zero Two.
I know, but I didn't think of him as that small.
Well,
I don't
but
know
Kirby's
why,
also right in front of the screen, and Zero Two's far away.
Yeah, well, I guess I can't. You're in this weird dimension of whatever, so I can't exactly tell how far away 02
God
is.
damn, dude, that actually looks really good. Fucking hell, dude. I was like, what,